Hey guys, it's Kris Jones, episode 11 of Ask Me Anything. And I want to thank those of you that posted questions. I had to take a week off here. I've been doing some traveling. I'm really excited though, not right now. I'm going to let the excitement build up. I'm going to have some really big news for you guys. Probably one of the biggest career opportunities I've ever had in my life is about to play out over the next couple of months. And that's why I've been, kind of in and out, traveling a lot, but more on that later. It's about you guys posting questions and me answering them, but stay tuned for some news in the not so distant future. So as you guys know, this might, for those of you that are watching this for the first time, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm an investor, about 20 companies I've invested in. I'm a best-selling author. I've sold over 100,000 books. And I'm an all-around nice guy, right? I'm a nice guy. People like me. Not everybody. I've always said that about 95% of the people I've met in my life would take a punch for me, and the other 5% will be throwing it. That's not a bad batting average. I've also said that about 51, I said, I'm not the best investor in the world, but I'm right 51% of the time. Just, if you think about it, it's not too bad. It's better than 49%. So my odds aren't bad, but I've had about a 20-year career as an entrepreneur and done a lot of public speaking, a lot of writing. And the purpose of these videos is really to kind of leverage technology, leverage Facebook Live, YouTube, and others to connect with those of you that might be earlier in your career or maybe who haven't had as much success as I've had, both personally and professionally. This is, an opportunity for me to connect with you and to answer your questions. So if you're watching, please post a question and I'll answer it in an upcoming episode, and I'll even mention your name. So let's dive into episode 11's questions. So my friend Ryan Adcroft says, what's your take on companies that have their whole team working remotely versus having a dedicated space for team members to work in? So either in-house or remote/freelance. Would you say working remotely hurts collaborative efforts and takes away from developing a company culture? And he asked me to kind of think about it from the digital marketing space, which I don't need to do. So Ryan, thanks for your question. Man, you've kind of hit a chord with me because, in the digital marketing space, there has been this opportunity for people that are really good at what they do, SEO, paid search marketers, whatever, to work remotely. There's problems with that though. I have no problem with people who are building a decent career, doing freelance work. Keep doing it, it's awesome. But I'm interested in building multi-million-dollar companies that are valuable. And it's very, very difficult for me as a business owner and as an entrepreneur who likes to build big companies to work with a bunch of people who work remotely for a number of reasons. One of which is that I'm a self-motivator. I come in every morning. I don't need to sort of listen to anything to pep me up or motivate me. And I'm very disciplined. I've worked over the course of my career on time management and how to motivate myself. So I'm pretty consistently delivering a very high energy, high sort of results outcome. What I found in working with remote employees is that it's a crapshoot. Some of them, do incredibly well with time management. Others don't. So that just is what it is. It's tough to manage them. I like to have meetings on the spare when I have an idea, or if someone has an idea, I want them to be able to come right to me immediately and for us to engage right there in the moment and see if that opportunity can't bear some fruit. It's not so easy to do that with remote workers. I can't tell you how many times. And I do support remote workers. I do have some freelancers, but my business model is in-house because, again, my goal is to build multi-million-dollar companies that are very valuable, and I find that working with them in person is a lot more effective. But what I was going to say is I can't tell you how many times where we've forgotten, my in-house team has forgotten to bring in a freelancer who was critical to the discussion we were having because they're remote. I mean, why should I have to worry about notifying someone else about being present in a meeting? It should be the other way around. So I get that the trend is in remote. I get it. Trust me, I'm a super flexible person. If anybody on my team, some of which are probably watching, and you could agree, if you guys ever want to work from home for whatever the reason, the kid's not feeling well, you know what? You just need to blow off some steam. You're never going to get any pushback. It's more the concept of working remotely versus as a full-time career versus working in-house. Final thing on that is culture. Dude, you want to build a big company? You want to build a company that's super valuable? It's all about culture. I want to bleed my brand. I want it to emanate from every ounce of my being. Very difficult to do that remotely. Almost impossible. I want my staff wearing our swag. I want the team to bring each other up when they're down. I want them to come in. I've had this saying since the beginning of my career, way back in the day. I love open floor plans and open environments because I always say that the energy of the room will basically originate from the highest energy person in the room. So I always hire people. I always make sure that one of my team members or team leaders is a high energy person because that raises the game. Again, very difficult to do unless you're self-motivated, super disciplined, and a high energy person at home. So in general, if you want to build a big company, like I have a track record of doing, of course you're going to have to leverage remote and freelancers, but as a business model, no thanks. Second question, Mike Harry. Mike, thanks so much for participating in past Ask Me Anythings. You're the man. Thank you, sir. How would you compare digital marketing to billboard and newspaper marketing? Are there pros or cons of each? Or would you say digital marketing is the only way to go? Oh man, this is the old sort of digital versus traditional. So generally speaking, there is no better, more accountable and transparent form of marketing advertising than digital. That's just a fact. If you want to focus very acutely on the specific audience that is likely to buy your product or service, you're going to have a better, more efficient use of your capital by doing that online or mobile than traditional. And there's reasons for that. I don't know the last time you read a newspaper, but there's a very specific kind of person that reads a newspaper. And for what it's worth, if you're a business that fits that particular type of reader, then a newspaper might be for you. But by and large, people don't read newspapers to buy stuff. And when you think about digital marketing, when someone types in a keyword on Google, like buy Nike or buy Converse All-Stars, guessing that they're probably looking to buy Converse All-Stars. Whereas in the newspaper, it's much more advertising than marketing. So it's just not as efficient. And you're ultimately paying for eyeballs in traditional media, whether it be TV, radio, or print. The way that they sell their inventory is based on how many people have access to it. A little bit different online, much more performance marketing mindset in the digital world, much more accountable, click-based or sale transaction-based, whereas with traditional media, there isn't as much accountability and it's somewhat of a crapshoot. If you spend $500 or $1,000 on a newspaper placement, there are probably no guarantees that you're going to get a return, whereas in digital, if you know what you're doing, you could get a return. This is though, to be fair, this is a question that deserves a much sort of longer and more thoughtful sort of response, because traditional and digital combined can be used to build an extraordinary brand. It comes down to things like what your market is geographically, what you're trying to accomplish. If I'm a local attorney, you're certainly going to get a better return on your investment with digital, but you need some visibility because the competition is there. You don't want to end up in a situation where you lose out on being visible. And so I would argue that maybe 70 or 80% of your budget would be spent in digital because it's more accountable, and 20 to 30% would be spent maybe on billboards and whatnot. Those things, they matter, even if they don't drive immediate return on investment. Again, I'd love to dive deeper, but I don't want to bore those of you that just want to kind of tune me down with that particular question. It's a good question, though. So then your daughter, Ashley, who is an author, decides to ask me, how would you recommend a college student to achieve solid internships in order to create mentors for a specific field as an alternative for college placement interns? So, man, I'm always kind of taken back when I meet someone who says, I interned for Nickelodeon, or I interned for MTV. One of the full-time employees at French Girls app, which is one of the startups I was the founding investor, Graydon floored us about 6 months into his career with us, and he said, guys, I need to do an internship in Los Angeles at a major ad agency. And we're all like, oh man, wow, he's going to get incredible experience and everything. And sure enough, I think he applied for a grant or whatever. However he did it, he was able to go to LA and get that internship. So my advice would be not to think small, not to think local, would be to think more about where you see yourself one day. And I'll tell you, the little resume boosts that you could get from an internship are real. It could start a conversation or a connection with a prospective employer in the future. If you could put that you worked at MTV, Nickelodeon, or whatever, that would be pretty amazing. And for what it's worth, if you want to stay in the local job market, you could work for, intern for any of the companies that I'm associated with, and I think that would be beneficial. I know for a fact, because I've done so many I've been references for a number of my interns and a number of my employees over the years, and people in this region hold companies like Refer Local and Pepper Jam and LSEO in very high regards. So I think it really comes down, set your expectations high, be willing to travel to really get that resume boost and that real amazing experience boost. And the other thing is, I know that there are career placement centers. Oh, by the way, one other thing is think abroad too. I'm always impressed with young people who are willing to go abroad and get experiences, not only internships, but study abroads and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. But what I was going to say in conclusion is that, listen, I work very closely with the 13, 14 colleges, universities, career placement centers, and internship coordinators. Some of them are absolute rock stars. But I wouldn't just leave it up to them to find your internship. I would kind of go outside of them. I would have them working on your behalf to try to locate some really cool opportunities for you, Ashley. But I would also really just go off on your own and think big. And I'm sure your dad's going to support your thinking because he has up to this point. Great question. Keep asking me questions in future episodes because you guys rock. Finally, Eric Munley. Eric Munley is the director of SEO at LSEO, my digital marketing company. And Eric says, what are my thoughts on projections and guarantees in organic search? So in other words, one of the products that he sells on a daily basis is search engine optimization. And ultimately, prospective clients want him to make guarantees. So Eric, as you know, my friend, when we look back at the last 15 to 20 years of this industry, it's got a bad reputation, almost exclusively from people making guarantees. The problem is that there is no direct line from search engine optimization expertise to the number one position on Google. There's just too many variables, and it's literally impossible to make guarantees. Now, I have seen firms that make guarantees and sell basically snake oil. So in other words, you make the guarantee that you're going to get, at least 10 keywords ranked in a top 10 position, and God love the customer who said, great, sign me up. The reality is those 10 keywords drive minimal to no search volume and have zero impact on the customer's business. So yes, they rank for long tail keywords. So in other words, 3, 4, 5, 6 keywords in a string. But those keywords don't get typed into, so it's kind of irrelevant. So yeah, you got your guarantee, but you didn't really get anything in terms of an impact on your bottom line. And so again, my advice is do not, we don't give guarantees at LSEO, but what we do promise is that, we're experts, we're on top of trends, and we are very mindful of what those, say, top 12 to 15 ranking factors are for purposes of ranking higher on search engines. Our entire team is our subject matter experts, and we're going to do everything we can to drive greater online visibility and greater performance based on key performance indicators than some of our competition. So it's a tough one, and I get it. And it's, the inclination would be to want to give them a guarantee, but it's just not, you can't do it in search engine optimization. And it's, I've never done it. I usually start off a call by setting expectations that if the prospective customer does want immediate results, let's pivot from search engine optimization to maybe paid search or paid social, where we could start spending money immediately and examine whether or not that money is driving transactions and return on investment or not. Whereas with search engine optimization, it's much more of a longer term best practices type of approach. And by the way, just because you can't guarantee results doesn't mean that every single business owner out there shouldn't have a effective SEO strategy. And they just have to realize that it's a longer term investment, but if that investment will pay off dividends, probably even more so than any paid strategy longer term. So you spend a little bit more up front to get a much bigger return in the future versus thinking in sort of short little, how much money did I make this week? You won't make as much. So Eric, thank you for your question. That was episode 11 of Ask Me Anything. Post your questions below, and I will see you guys really soon. Thank you.